Coach, just give us your thoughts after watching the film from just the general offensive performance on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I think there comes a time when you got to play a game before you can take a step forward. It just practicing against, our guys and all that is good, but you got to get out in front of a crowd and execute um so that was good. There was a lot of positives, but it was certainly the first game and things to improve on, which you'd like to think that you can make the biggest improvement between week one and week two. But effort was good. The usual suspects played well, right? So we got the different guys the ball and saw them do some things that their people are kind of used to seeing them do. And getting, really for an offensive line to, with a couple new guys in there, I thought was solid. But there's things all over the place to clean up but it's good to do it where you feel like you got to get out there and, obviously, uh, the competition's going to pick up a lot, but at the same time to go, score against anyone to score 50 points against anybody is not always easy to do. And so it was good to get out there and move the ball and do the things that we need to do to be successful, which is not turn it over, right? Not have sacks, not have penalties. We did have one penalty, but that's a pretty good day to just have one penalty. We didn't have motion penalties and we didn't have, false starts. Those are things you worry about in a first game. So our processes were pretty good about just getting the ball snapped and put in play. And then obviously, we got to play several people, which is always good for just experience to be able to play three quarterbacks in the game and them all be productive and all the different skill guys. You got to see Charlie Robinson play for the first time and get his feet wet and Mike Barrow and just things like that where you get to get guys in there that or you're going to have help to be successful in the rest of these games to get them out there and let them play and let them make a few mistakes and learn from them and uh, so so overall pleased with the way we played. We dominated, but we were supposed to and
Yeah.
we did what we we're supposed to do.
You mentioned it before, and all football coaches talk about the improvement from week one to week two. You guys in week two now go into a conference game in the American Conference, kind of jump right into it. Um, how is that matchup? I know they have a new defensive coordinator, and he has some experience at Air Force, and certainly knows what Navy is all about. Where do you see some of the key things when you line up against UAB this weekend?
Well, obviously, we got a lot of respect for Coach Russ, who has a great background there. Played at Air Force. Uh, they do a great job defensively there. I'm sure he was very helpful to their program last year, being on that staff last year. And obviously, I say many years ago, back in 2017, for about 5 years during that time, he was the DC there. And he's got a lot of experience. He's coached pro ball, and so he's going to understand us and what we're doing. It'll be interesting to see, how they come out and with it's always, I'm sure one of their challenges for them is, having a lot of new guys, obviously the transfer portal, and they got a lot of great looking long athletes. Um, but those guys, I want to say nine of the listed starters are transfers. They transferred in. I think they were all there during the spring, but how quickly those guys can come together, I'm sure that's some of the challenges there. Um, Obviously we're a little different, so how are they going to play us differently than they did against Alabama State? And But they have good looking players now that can run and do some things. They have length and so that's going to be very challenging for us as we try to attack a whole different animal now. A game we're probably not going to win the pregame warm up, but can we go execute at a high level and find where they are, get our hat on a hat, be able to run our style. And But it's still going to boil down to let's don't turn the ball over. right? Let's put the ball in play. Let's have positive plays, no lost yardage plays. Um, make good decisions, and try to play harder and faster and more physical than they do. Obviously, that's a lot of coach speak, I guess, but for us, those things are critically important to us playing our style of football.
I was going to ask you, and you touched on it there. It's crazy when I look at all the different players and where they're at. I mean, it's a wide variety of where all these players came at on the defensive
Mhm.
side from UAB. I mean, it's a little bit of everything. When you go up against a team, how much is it scheme and what they do as opposed to personnel? And I can't imagine you're going back and I'm looking at Nicholls State games and I'm at a certain player here. So how do you balance that from the personnel and playing their personnel as opposed to playing their system or what you saw at least, just one game in?
Right. So there's a lot of newness for them, right? I mean, it's a whole new, not just defense coordinator, but I think pretty much the whole defensive staff is new for those guys. So it's a lot of new coaches, a lot of new players. So there's some unknowns there for us. Um, but we hopefully one of our strengths is being able to adjust and adapt to what we get in games. And but it's welcome to college football now. I mean, that's just especially, at the group of five level and the FCS, it's just there's gonna be really good players are hard to retain, um but it looks like they did a really nice job of uh bringing in new guys that are great looking players, so that's just what we are, what most places are trying to deal with now. Us obviously we're a little different. But for them, it looked like they did a nice job in the off season of, trying to get guys that fit what they do, fit their culture. Coach Dilfer's a really great guy. Like I think he tries to do it the right way. He tries to build, culture with character and values. Um, but it's like anything, it takes time too, right? So, you really look at the, teams that can kind of, especially in today's world, teams that can start fast and get a little confidence and begin to gel with all those new guys by the end of the season. Now they played together several weeks, they really get a lot better, so, um, it just depends on how fast you can get those things done. So, like I said, they have talent there. The pieces are in place. Excellent coaching staff, a guy that knows what he's doing. And I'm sure they're saying the same thing from week one to week two. They're going to get a lot better.
Thanks, Coach.
Mhm.
Scott Wyckoff.
Yeah, Coach, when you make the move into this portion of the season, you talk about from game one to game two. How do you like the conditioning of your team coming out of game two, how they've responded physically?
From coming out of game one,
Yeah, coming out into game two, yeah.
yeah, I think I think our guys. I mean, Coach Critzy's done a great job with our players and their just development and then their conditioning. So it we played, especially our offensive line. We played them probably three quarters of the game. We just wanted them to kind of continue to work together. We wanted Braxton to be able to play with the ones, and him have an opportunity to make some plays with those guys because we're going to need him to do that in the future. When those starters got to play, what do we get? A total of maybe 70 or so take total plays. So those starters probably played 58 plays, something like that. So that's a good day to be able to get out there and run around and get hit. And, it wasn't a hot day, but still be out there in your pad sweating. And, but then to also get some other guys in there and get them some work and not, like a guy like Blake Horvath, he didn't get hit a lot, Saturday. So that's, he got to play a good, clean first half. And, but everybody's got to be able to go the distance too now, right? When we get in tight games, which this is getting ready to happen, we've got to be able to play four quarters of football and play at a high level. And so hopefully we're able to do that. But I do think our guys are in good condition. And we'll see. We'll see if we can, put all that together.
With 1 year under your belt of the American Conference, what was your biggest takeaway that's in the back of your mind as you play the first conference game against this UAB team?
Well, first of all, I think it's the best group of five conference in the country. I mean, it's really good football when you look at what this league did in bowl games. Right? I think we had the best, the American Conference had the best bowl record of any conference in college football, and you see our teams win, and going out of conference. So, um, but you also know that there's going to be a lot of change from year to year, just player personnel wise, right? Because of the transfer portal. So there's a lot of there's more newness maybe now each year than probably there has been in the past. And that's any place, right? Because of the kids going other places. So, but you see, and there was a lot of head coaches, to change this off season. So there's new coordinators, right? So there's several new coordinators we're going to be going against. So I think people probably know a lot more about us now after us having a season last year than maybe we know about, some of the teams we're going to play just because of the new staffs and all that. So it's a good league. I think the coaching is outstanding. There's very talented players. A lot of players going to play in the NFL. And there's been success in this league. And that, like I said, that goes with, playing against other conferences, winning bowl games. So I've been very impressed with this level of football. And every week in the warmups, you look over at the other team and you're going, wow, look at these guys, right? So a bunch of good looking players that do a great job, good coaches. It's really a great, great college football in this league.
Is that one of the things you had to get used to, the warm-ups with looking at these
Yeah,
teams?
I just try not to look over there anymore. I turn my back to them because there's some there really is. There's some really good looking, long, big, fast football teams. And that it's and listen, we have good players too. Not to say that, we got some kids that look good in their pads too. And but it's really impressive week in and week out to see the competition, and then it's so much fun. Our guys go compete, right? So to go match up against that and have chances to win, that's really a neat experience. And I'm proud of who we are and what we are and how we do things. And certainly we want to be consistent and have chances to win every week, be in bowl games, and I think we can.
Making the move from a head coach to a coordinator, how is the comfort level for you going into the second season of that full mindset of being that and having transitioned from a head coach?
It's good. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. Um, I enjoy who I work for. That's a big thing for me. For me to not drive the boat is being able to trust the guy who is, behind the steering wheel, and I trust him 110% because he's a good man who cares about his players, cares about his coaches, and his mindset of toughness and character and discipline fit the way I believe football should be and the way a program should be run. So I have so much faith and trust in Coach Newberry. And then I can, I can be the leader on the offense, right? I still get to drive that smaller boat. And Coach Newberry is a defensive guy too. So, now, and he's a really smart coach. So he comes in and gives us great suggestions and other things, but he lets us kind of do our thing, and he doesn't micromanage either side of the ball. So he allows us to show leadership and make decisions, and he allows the people working for him to try to be experts in their whatever particular area they're in. So I've enjoyed sitting in the role that I'm in. Um, and there's certain headaches I don't have to deal with, that maybe I used to have to deal with sometimes, and it's easier for me to just focus on our players on offense, putting a good, trying to put them in good situations and game planning, and then ultimately trying to during a game, you know, once again put them in situations they can be successful.
Thanks, Coach.
Coach Cronic is correct. The American was 6-2 last year and won the Bowl Challenge Cup. Wags.
So can you talk a little bit more about the offensive line? It wasn't the lineup that we had kind of seen
We got
throughout.
to keep you guessing, Wags. We don't want you to ever know what's going on.
The depth chart and also what I saw during preseason was a little bit different. You had Acevedo more at right guard and Heater at right tackle. What led you all to make a change there? I don't know if it was the last minute, but what led you to kind of go with a different configuration?
You're trying to get your best, group starting, your best five, and ultimately get your best eight, because you're going to want to play three guards, right? You're going to want to play three tackles, play two centers. So you're trying to get your best. How does that, what does that look like? And we just felt like with Cam being down for for a little bit of time, it made more sense to move Hoke into center. And Grayson Crawford is a kid who got his first start, but he's an older guy who's played a lot of snaps in practice. And then Acevedo gave us some length and a little bit more athleticism, maybe at right tackle. And he has played in games too. So I think that was our best five to put out there. But then we also got to see other guys play, right? Because Connor Heater's a guy who's been in the start lineup a little bit. Uh, got to see Torrin in there a little bit at center, who he did a good job. It's just mixing and matching and trying to cross train some guys so we have some answers. To get the best five out there on any given Saturday. So that's what we felt like gave us the best chance.
And can you talk about a guy like Crawford who's worked really hard for a long time and finally gets a shot to start as a senior, and he hadn't played a whole lot. That must have been a lot to him.
It is, and we knew that whatever he has, he gives it to you. Okay, and he's a smart kid. He's a tough kid. And so I know he was excited to play as much as he did. He got banged up on the very first touchdown there a little bit, but then he was right back in there. Proud of Grayson. He is an outstanding. All our guys are. You hear me say it over and over again. He's just another one of the outstanding people in our program. Tough kid that comes to work every day and wants to do a great job. So it was good to see him get out there and have some success.
Can you talk about Eli and what a reliable weapon he is? I mean, whether you hand him the ball, pitch him the ball, throw him the ball, he usually makes a play when he gets it in his hands. In terms of a receiver, he runs good routes. He gets open usually. He catches. He never drops passes thrown his way. It must be reassuring to have such a reliable and consistent weapon available.
Sure, he's a good player, and there's no question. Wish we had five of them, but he's not our only weapon, and it's nice to have different guys that can do things with Alex and Chad and all the different guys, So, but yeah, we're trying to get him the ball. Okay, don't get it twisted. We're trying to get that guy the ball, and he does a lot of things well. He's one of those guys that uh, he could play at a lot of places, but I think he really fits this. Okay. He really fits just being a midshipman. He fits what we do schematically. He fits what we do character wise. He's very unselfish. He blocked really well during the game. And he's a fun kid to be around. He's a little goofy. He says some funny things sometimes, it keeps everybody loose. Uh, but he is extremely intelligent, doing a great job here academically, doing a great job in his leadership role there in the sniper room. And obviously, he's a big part of our success and will continue to be.
Mike James from the Mid Report and also the Navy Football Radio Network had reviewed the game, and he said that on your first, 12 plays, you had 9 different formations. Is that something we can expect to see a lot this year?
I think that's kind of who we are. I think if you charted our, first dozen plays every game last year, you kind of want to we want to be in a lot of formations, make you think a little bit, see how you're going to line up to the different deals. So yeah, we want to be very multiple in our formations and motions, the way we move around and shift and all those things.
I don't know that the tight ends were targeted at all. Is that just the way the game went?
Yeah.
Is that corrected? I don't remember a tight end being thrown to on Saturday.
Yeah, we probably could have thrown it to him a couple times there. But it just sometimes the games, kind of go that way. Sometimes there's one position gets featured a little bit more, but don't read anything into that. I mean, Cody is a really good receiver there. So he'll be getting the ball in the future. He had 9 knockdown blocks in the game. It was just tremendous blocking at tight end. And I thought Jake really blocked. Those two guys are outstanding blockers at the position, extremely physical. Those guys are a big piece of what we're doing. And but it just happened to be one of those games that just the ball didn't come their way. So we certainly not trying to we're not trying to, we're not avoiding those guys. It's just kind of the way the game went.
One pass downfield to Hutchinson. Did you feel he should have made that catch? He had both hands on it. I know that
Uh,
there
I think the
was
ball
kind of
got tipped a little bit. We probably could have thrown it a little with a little more air and maybe a little deeper because he got behind him. So just one of those deals. Need to throw it a little further and then give him a better chance. But I think the ball probably got, the kid got his fingers on the ball just a little bit. And that's a hard thing to do is judge that ball and then it gets tipped and then it pops into your, hits you in the face or hits you in the chest because it altered the course of the ball. So, yeah, I wouldn't say that's something he should have caught. Had he caught it, it'd have been a heck of a catch to be able to do that. So we need to throw it probably a little further down there and give him a better chance.
The DB did get credit for a pass breakup on that play.
okay. Where do you feel Nathan Kent is? I know Hutchinson started because Nathan's been kind of working his way back after missing most of the spring with the track and whatnot, and then having the summer where he wasn't able to train as much. Where do you feel Nathan is?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now he's kind of in that, he got, I want to say he played 10 snaps in the game. Don't quote me on that. I think every week you'll probably see that number go up a little bit more as he gets back into football shape and all that. I was really impressed with Josh Guerin Saturday, and his blocking was fantastic during the game. And they all play hard. Nate Kent's a good blocker. Luke, busts his tail back, but Josh Guerin really did an exceptional job playing physical and striking people, and so that's good to see. And those guys have been more consistent in their playmaking. So uh, obviously the quarterbacks are getting more and more confidence there. I'm getting more and more confidence there. So uh, I'm excited about where that room is headed.
All right, I'll pass it off there.
Tim Nolan.
Coach, given all the hype around Blake coming into this season, what does it say about him that he throws 7 times, he has 2 rushes for 14 yards, and he's perfectly happy with that because you guys rolled VMI?
Well, first of all, Blake's awesome. He's awesome, and obviously Blake is a really good football player, and so but Blake understands that the team is going to need more than just him, and more than just him playing quarterback. Um, and so we felt like if we could, if he was really sharp in the first half and we were where we wanted to be, and Braxton is a guy who can come in and play at any time, so it was good to get Braxton in there with the ones. I wanted him to get extensive time with the first group in the game if possible, right? And so that was good to see. And then obviously get Jackson in there. Then you can see Jackson has some juice to him too. Um, so Blake is a great teammate. He understands what we're trying to get accomplished as a team and what we're trying to do over the course of a season. He also understands that, we were able to keep some hits off of him Saturday. He probably felt better after that game than he has in a long time after a game. So I think, when you have multiple good players at a position, it's okay to let those other guys do some things, right? And so you may not have seen the end of that, okay? But obviously Blake is our guy, and I thought he played a really clean first half. It was very efficient. He made good decisions, and he's gonna obviously we need him to make a lot of plays. So, but I appreciate him and his approach and him being such a good teammate. It's really amazing to watch our players pull for each other. More than anywhere I've ever been, they pull for each other, and they get excited about each other's success. And I know he was excited watching Braxton out there running those long runs, and then Jackson as well. And so yeah, just great kid, great person.
Just one more from me. 464 yards on the ground, your most as Navy offensive coordinator. But where do you feel there's still more meat left on the bone in the run game?
I think we got to do a better job with our leverage on some things, just getting our hat in the right place and then sustaining blocks, right? So that's critical for us is, on the perimeter is leverage, getting our hat in the right place, getting square, making sure that we're not getting boxed in, finishing with our hands tight. And then on the interior, making sure our hat's in the right place, whether we're trying to kick something out, need to get our hat inside, or we're trying to reach it, get our hat outside, and then maintaining that block, not losing blocks halfway through the play where those guys can come off and make tackles. So I think those are areas that we're focusing on this week. And certainly UAB will be a lot more challenging to accomplish those things because on defense, you're trying not to lose leverage. And on defense, you're trying to have block destruction, right? You're trying to beat those blocks. So that's the deal from a fundamental standpoint is which team can do those things better, and we'll certainly be challenged in that area this Saturday.
Thank you.
Coach, was there anyone maybe in the second half, the second, third unit that showed up, played better than maybe they had practiced that you'd expected that could maybe earn an additional looks here in the near future?
Yeah, like I said, I think Torin came in and did well at center. He was a guy who he finished some blocks and did some things. Uh, it was good, like I said, to get some of those younger skill guys in there and watch them do some good things. Whether it was Shane or Charles or even TK Hodges, did some nice things there. We got to get Isaiah Bryant. He's getting healthy again, so getting him a little bit more back into the rotation and the swing of things. It was good to see Kendall Evans get to play a few snaps out there because Kendall has a high ceiling, right? So it's just getting him comfortable and, trying to think through, all those offensive linemen, every rep they get is valuable, especially in the stadium in front of a crowd. So anytime you can do that, that's positive for your whole football program. It's positive for morale. It's positive for just building depth. And there's some guys playing right now, that got to get in there. Mikey Pearson, is playing because Vic's been with the hamstring. We're hoping to get Vic back really soon, but that's going to add up over time to later in the season when we need those guys to be prepared. They'll be a little more comfortable in those situations. So all that's positive.
Thank you. Yeah, we got about 3 minutes. Does anyone have any other questions? Wags, go ahead.
Well, Coach Newberry mentioned, obviously Braxton did some great things, but he mentioned something yesterday about we got to make sure that he gets us in the right formations and, has his motions. Did he have a couple boo-boos and that kind of thing as far as game management?
He did. He had a couple. I think, and those were early. I think he kind of settled down after that because those are things he doesn't, that don't usually happen with him in practice, right? So I think just being in the game in those situations and being with the ones out there and having to manage more complexities of the offense, because we were going after it pretty good with him in there in the third quarter, right? We were calling the game pretty aggressively and doing some different things. So every chance he has a chance to be in that type of moment is good. But there was, the first series, there was a couple, there was one time he forgot to send a guy in motion and that kind of thing, and which is not typical of what he does in practice. So I think it's just, settling down and then getting out there and just playing the game, not letting the game play you.
I think Mike James had pointed out that he did a really good job of being patient when those two long runs. He kind of waited for the hole to develop instead of just taking off. He kind of stayed back, and then when it was there, he hit it. Is that something you noticed?
Yeah, I agree. I think every time he ran the ball, he got better. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he was a guy. The more he ran, the more success he had. The more Braxton is a big. When Braxton is feeling comfortable, he's really good. And I think the more he plays, the more comfortable he gets. And I thought one or two of the early runs were a little more, not tentative, but just not quite as aggressive. But then, some of the later runs, he really ran through some arm tackles, and just looked like that 6'3", 215-pound guy that has that speed and that strength. And so I think, like I said, the more he does it, the more he's going to do it, right? And you can see how special he is just athletically. And I think he gets more comfortable, and that also helps. Not that he's a tough kid, but I think the more comfortable you get, you're tougher in those situations. You're more aggressive and you run through some tackles. And so it was fun to see him because there's time, he's a guy who when he breaks the first level, he's gone. I mean, that's what, in the press box, you go, well, they don't have an angle on him. He's got that kind of speed, right? So that was good to see.
Thanks,
All
Coach.
right, thanks. Thanks a lot, Coach. Thanks
All
a
right,
lot.
thank you guys. All right, have a good week.